Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex and this is Big Baby Reviews. Today is Rob Liefeld Day and that's why we'll be looking at this next issue in his New Mutants run. Before we talk about that though, I want to mention that we are hovering in around 185 subscribers. If you are within that list, thank you so much. I appreciate your subscription. You were only, though, 11% of the viewership. I've looked at the analytics. 89% of people viewing these videos are not actually subscribed. So please, if you are so inclined and you're willing to help out the channel, hit that quick subscribe button below the video. It really helps the channel, helps generate more content, and helps get us out there to other people who might be interested in the channel. Helps us grow the channel as well. I'm looking to hit the 250 mark, my own personal quick first milestone. And once we do hit the 250 mark, I will have a special video put out to commemorate that. And now enough shameless self-promoting. We're going to move on with this issue of the New Mutants. This is cover dated 92 August 1990. Thing is though, we're only going to look at this cover real quick because the interiors, as you can see, are not actually drawn by Rob Liefeld. We've got a fill-in issue here, and I mean the main purpose is, especially on Rob Liefeld days, to look at Rob Liefeld artwork. So basically we're going to talk about the cover real quick and then move on to the next issue, issue 93, which is drawn by Rob Liefeld, at least on the interiors and the cover. So one thing I want to mention here, this may be the first piece of New Mutants art actually inked by Rob Liefeld. I could be wrong, but maybe the first published Rob Liefeld inked artwork. So down here, if you look at the signature, all we have is Rob Liefeld's signature, and I mean, I'm seeing all the telltale kind of marks that Rob Liefeld puts down later on X-Force on the stuff we know for sure that he's inking. It's still maybe a little cruder than that, but we're just feeling the Liefeld, I guess is how I'd put it, right? Like, we've heard the conversations, or if you haven't, I'll mention it here, between Todd McFarlane and Rob Liefeld, and Todd's kind of telling Rob, you know, you got to ink your own stuff. It's a bit more work, but your artwork's going to look like you want it to look, and also you get paid for being a penciler and an inker, right? So you kind of get, obviously make more money by controlling most of the artwork, so it's kind of a win-win all around. Not a particularly crazy, super awesome cover, but nice to see Rob Liefeld finally inking himself. And again, publishing-wise, this may be the first time we see this. That's it for this cover, so we're moving on to issue 93, and that one is a classic, super awesome cover. Got another cover here inked by Todd McFarlane. There's just something in the way McFarlane inks Liefeld, even though a lot of it is pretty close to the lines Liefeld I know is putting down in his pencils overall. You know, I do see a few flourishes where McFarlane's adding stuff, you know, on the claws here. That's probably McFarlane, these little extra bits of hatching, noodly hatching, if you want to call it that. But there's kind of an extra level of rubberiness and cartooniness when McFarlane inks Liefeld for some reason. I feel like Liefeld does have somewhat of a stiff style with some of his postures with his characters, and when McFarlane inks them, they just seem to kind of move around more, be more dynamic all of a sudden. Not quite sure why that happens. I guess maybe Liefeld inks with more angular lines, and maybe McFarlane inks with the rounder lines, and that creates more of that sense of 3D. But this is a good example of that, where again, I think it's a pretty good marriage between Liefeld and McFarlane here. Looks really cool, and just makes for a really interesting, awesome, dynamic cover. Great pose for both characters, right? You knew it had to happen. Cable versus Wolverine. All this and Sunfire too. Okay, so who cares about Sunfire really? I like the design of Sunfire, but I mean, obviously the star here is Wolverine, and clearly being brought in as a guest star to give Cable credibility. We talked about that, how at first Cable was given credibility by other characters around him, basically, which is what you would do. It's almost like they do in wrestling, right? Same kind of concept. So let's have a look inside, see what's going on. Starting off with a pretty cool splash page, you know, your typical open mouth Liefeld character shooting a gun. You know, I think he's starting to kind of work that out here. It's not yet an official trope. Is Cable missing a finger here? Is his pinky tucked in? Or does he actually just have 3 fingers? Who knows? Not last issue, because like I said, it's the film, but before that we had a lot of costume changes for Cable and trying different variations and jackets and stuff. Here, from what I can tell, at least in this splash page, I might be wrong when I turn the page, but I feel like we've gone back to that first kind of original design that we got in New Mutants 87, right? The spiky bracelet here, which eventually disappears. This I always thought was kind of an odd thing for Cable. Once he got rid of that, his costume it was just an odd element that didn't quite fit in with the rest. So I think maybe Liefeld realized that and got rid of it at some point. So credits real quick. Louis Simonson, writer. Rob Liefeld, penciler. We know from interviews and stuff he's probably plotting most of this at this point. Hilary Barta is the inker once again. Joe Rosen is the letterer, and Brad Van Kata is the colorist. So Hilary Barta on the inks, as I mentioned before, doing a pretty good job on Rob Liefeld, being pretty loyal to his pencils. I think just like with Dale Keane, what we're getting is, in the Dale Keane episodes I mentioned, he has Bob McLeod as an inker, and what we're getting is just thicker lines. I do think, though, that Barta's doing a better job on Liefeld than McLeod is doing on Keane, or Keown. And here we go with an awesome double-page splash. Lots of dynamic action here. We've got, you know, the Liefeld trope of the kind of I mean, I say it's a Liefeld trope. It's a superhero trope, right? The faceless minions in the same costume. It's on G.I. Joe in the cartoons, and even before that, I was a big fan. My uncle, when I was a kid, had this VHS of Birdman, right, which was a 60s cartoon, not the newer version, the revamped thing that came out, you know, 20 odd years ago. It's already a long time, but the original version from the 60s, you know, and I knew nothing about Birdman, but I kept watching that videotape and I thought it was interesting. Just these superheroes that I never heard about. But in Birdman and the, what was their name? The Galaxy Trio or something like that, who were kind of like the Fantastic Four a little bit, or at least a play on that. You had these kind of, you know, faceless minions who all have the same costume. It's an old trope. I mean, ultimately, I guess the inspiration comes from the army, right? Ultimately, you know, army is not seen as individuals, but a bunch of faceless guys in the same kind of uniform and costume, right? At least in a storytelling sense here. So we've got some shots of Sunfire. As I said, who cares? Although I do like Sunfire's design. I always thought he looked kind of cool. We've got some cool shots of Cable here, right? Quickly becoming a very popular character. This is a clear swipe from a burn panel I've seen before. I'm on a Facebook group called Comic Swipes. I probably saw it there. But, you know, going through Liefeld stuff, call it an homage or a swipe. Not giving the guy shit in any way. Lots of artists use poses, you know, just from reference pictures or from actual comic book panels to help them out when creating their layouts. So, you know, not shitting on anyone for doing that. A lot of artists do it. Feel a bit of a Larson vibe here real quick. You know, I've said before that I feel like Liefeld just can't help but be influenced by the artists around him that he's into and stuff. So there's certain things where when I see this and this, I feel like he's taken a bit from Larson around this period, right? And I mean, Larson's awesome at layouts and anatomy and stuff. So yeah, there's no reason why you wouldn't want to get inspiration from him. This here is at the origin of the arms behind the back Liefeld pose. So I've talked about Liefeld doing great down shots. Maybe not so successful here. Like, that's just an odd position, right? Looks like he's about to fall over, face down. So I'm not quite sure who these guys are. Obviously some bad guys, right? Interesting layouts on these two pages. Just stuff that I don't think... It seems like, you know, he was trying different things and he's lost some of this, right? Because I do really like the layouts on these pages here. It's just some interesting dynamic, and he's not cheating on the panels. Here's a great down shot by Liefeld, right? And something you don't get a lot of. You know, there's 4 small, evenly shaped panels by Liefeld. Lots more storytelling there. And there's something I can't quite put my finger on here, but it feels like the inking's gotten a little bit different on these two pages. Not quite sure what's going on there, but it's looking very Liefeld, more so than being inked by Barta. We're getting a lot of just cool shots here, right? That's a good one there. Cool shots of Cable, and that's what helped make him popular, right? Dynamic action, guns, scars, light up eyes. Throw everything at the wall, see what sticks, right? That's kind of what Cable feels like. If you heard that, that's my cat in the back who wants to play. But now is not the time, kitty. Give me a few minutes to finish this video here. Still waiting for Wolverine, aren't we? Great action sequence. pretty clear. I like this shot here. Understandably, I think this character is more than likely called Sumo, right? I don't remember for sure, but yeah, he says it's just the obvious name. But this shot of him, you know, doing a sumo jump, I guess, E-Honda Street Fighter 2, is that out by then? Is that where sumo comes from, maybe as inspiration? But just jumps down here on, I forget his name all the time. That character there that Rob Liefeld would get rid of, because he is pretty tough to draw, it seems like. At least over and over. Although you can do some interesting... Warlock, right? That's his name. You can do some interesting things with him, right? Interesting shadow play all the time with Warlock. So, you know, I could see how it'd get tedious to draw, though. That's just an odd one, right? The foreshortening's a little weird there. Pretty sure his leg would be broken if it had this shape here. But, you know, Liefeld, this is a great period of experimentation. I feel like he's trying a lot of different stuff. And, you know, even though there's hit or miss... overall, it's just his artwork's getting better and better. And I feel like even he gets to a point where he's really good. And some of the stuff that he's good at, he will stop doing. And I don't understand quite why, but his modern art, just not as much, you know, like this dynamic foreshortened shot here, right? We're getting less of that. This, I would say, definitely is Larson's influence. I would almost venture to say, I feel like I'm looking at this, maybe he swiped or homaged a Larson shot from maybe Amazing Spider-Man or somewhere else. Yeah, just this feels very Larson-y. There's some Larson stuff in this issue. Yeah, like this to me feels like a Larson pose, you know what I mean? I don't remember recently seeing, you know, Liefeld trying to pull off anything like this here. We actually get to see here that let's cheer for this panel here, because we actually get to see whatever these are, if these are guns or swords or cannons or something, we actually get to see that, okay, there is some sort of slit within the shoulder pads that he can actually throw things in there, right? Because sometimes, you know, as you see here, stuff tends to disappear too, so you're not quite sure where they've gone to. But at least here we get some sort of explanation. Maybe they fell into the shoulder pad for some reason. This part is kind of funny, right? Like the introduction of Wolverine, kind of odd, just dude, you know, silhouetted figure. Obviously, we know who that is there. And I will say that, you know, I do enjoy Rob Liefeld's Wolverine. I do enjoy it more back then in the 90s than what he does now, generally with the look. Like the arm hair. Like the exaggerated boots, even though those boots I've always thought are ridiculous for Wolverine, right? They've downplayed those over the years, where the wings get, you know, they just kind of become more regular combat boot looking boots. You know, it is pretty ridiculous that the boots basically mirror the mask. It's kind of weird, but you know, it's superheroes. I guess that's why they kept him out of costume for so long in the movies. But now, as you've seen with Wolverine and Deadpool, well, you know, people wanted to see it. People got it. Ultimate fan service movie. Not saying it's the most excellent movie in the world, but if you're into fan service and seeing all this kind of kooky comic book stuff in a movie, then in that case, Deadpool and Wolverine is probably for you. So this shot here is just super awesome. Good inking. Whoever did it, if it is Hilary Barta, I think now the styles are starting to gel, even though Liefeld will pretty quickly move on to just inking himself. I think everything here is pretty close to the pencils. There might be some line weight choices here and there where the line weight's a bit thickened up and you get some thicker contours than you would get maybe with Liefeld, but I just think this here is super successful. The Liefeld profile shot, I've talked about it before, not so successful. Always looks kind of weird to me, and it's very kind of, you know, repetitive, patterned, right? Kind of drawing, right? All his profile men look pretty much the same, and I guess that kind of starts here in New Mutants, right? And that is the end of the issue. Rarely do issues end on double page splashes, so I'm just curious, is there a shorter page count to this comic? Let's count and find out real quick, all right? So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. No, it is a regular, mainstream Marvel comic. So I guess they moved the ads around somehow to make sure we get this double page splash as the end of the issue. 'Cause like I said, I've rarely seen a comic overall that ends with a double page splash. So something a little different, something a little innovative from Rob Liefeld there, amongst other things he did. So there you have it, New Mutants issue 93. I would say pretty cool once Wolverine pops around. Love that double page splash at the end. The art is really kind of coming into his own. Rob Liefeld is becoming Rob Liefeld. Pretty soon he'll be inking himself. But if you have any comments on some of the questions that I may have asked during the video, or anything you'd like to add or that you know about that you think I might be interested in, please let me know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope everyone out there has a great day.
Like, subscribe, like, subscribe.
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KINGCOMICS.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.